Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about how shorts can't buy, the failed short, spike in margin calls, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. Price action is so boring, but this is awesome. No one is selling, no one is selling. Another day of buying / holding complete, apes together strong. When you take a look at the turnover for AMC. Now, again, with multiple other indicators, what we understand for AMC right now is that essentially people are not selling their shares. Whenever we see anything that happens to AMC, whether it's the bad news articles that's published, whether it's the price being suppressed and manipulated, no one is actually selling their shares. Again, we've shown this with different variables. We've shown the OBV, we've shown the market sentiment, and that itself is the most powerful thing for the apes, is the fact that no one is willing to sell. And then on top of that is the fact that not only are people not selling, but actually they're increasing their position size in AMC. Now, this is extremely bad for the short sellers, and we've talked about the reasons why, obviously being the fact that they will have to create synthetic shares every time you choose to buy AMC. And that itself is costing them millions and billions of dollars every single day, and will cost them hundreds of billions of dollars when they have to buy it back from us. Another thing you can see is, I bet the market makers can't believe they sold billions of shares and we are still buying. Sink it more and I'll buy more. Simple. Now, this is essentially the mindset of pretty much 99% of the apes within this industry. And it's essentially just understanding the fact that synthetic shares have been created tons of times now. We've seen how the float has been sold multiple times, but yet we are still buying and we see it as opportunity. And you have to remember is that short sellers want real shares of AMC. They want people to sell their synthetic shares. They want people to sell their real shares. Essentially, they want the AMC retail ownership to go from 99% all the way to 0%, because then at that point, they don't have to pay for the squeeze. At that point, they won't lose out on hundreds of billions of dollars. And that's why they continue to do this. Essentially, by creating synthetic shares, they're obviously trying to suppress the price. But what they fail to realize is that we know what they're doing. And you can see that AMC is being continuously bought up despite what they throw at us. Another thing is taking a look at this. Why does AMC stock trade off exchange at such high percentages daily? Today hit over 70%. Everyone knows what's going on. The reason why nothing is being done about it is because the market is corrupted and corrupted to the highest levels. Where we can see is that AMC stock trades heavily off exchange, primarily due to payment for order flow driven retail order flow, dark pool execution by institutions and market makers, and tactics that limit price discovery and obscure trading intentions. This high percentage of exchange volume raises ongoing concerns about market fairness, especially among retail investors. So if you want to understand what they're doing, if you want to understand why AMC is still at $3.40 and yet all its competitors are seeing its price going up, are seeing more and more money flowing in, well, this is the reason why, because everything that we've shown here, and of course more as well. Some other things that's obviously not talked about here is the naked shorts, rehypothecations, FTDs, the tokens of AMC. There are so much more that's not being mentioned, but just when you look at this alone, you can see what they are doing. And remember, this isn't something that is automatic. This isn't something that just suddenly happens in the market. This is something that's manually done by these institutions. And when you ask yourself, why are they manually doing this? Well, it's because they need to make sure that the price doesn't go up. Otherwise, they lose hundreds of billions of dollars. So if you understand why they try to create, hundreds of billions of shares of AMC, this is the reason why, and why everyone is buying is because we know exactly what's up. Another thing to see is how, again, short sellers are not getting penalized for what they're doing. We talked about how essentially here is because the market's corrupted and essentially no action is being taken. And you can see here, just in, Goldman fined 1.45 million for false report. You can see 36.6 billion orders to CAT system, 98 million order memos, 6.8 million short marked long, over-reported 98,000 trade to dark pools, 372,000 inaccurate confirmations. And so this is what we are looking at. And again, this is the penalty they get, a 1.45 million fine. Now, 1.45 million is obviously a lot of money. But when you look at it in relatives, when you look at it in comparison to how much money Goldman Sachs are making, how much money they've made by actually committing, these things that they've done, they have made way over $1.45 million. Essentially, we talked about how it's just a cost of business for these institutions at this point. And that's why they keep on doing what they're doing. And when you ask yourself, why has AMC not seen price discovery? Because constantly I see these news saying, well, if IMAX is seeing true price discovery when the box office is going up and AMC is not, then that would mean AMC is a bad company. But clearly that isn't the case. When firms are able to get away by committing these things that negatively impacts a stock price, and they only have to pay 1.45 million, and you understand that there's a lot at stake with short sellers, institutions, and AMC, you understand why we are not seeing true price discovery. You understand why we're constantly seeing the suppression that is happening to AMC. And this is what we talked about of why we need a better system, why we need a even crew in terms of bigger consequences for these short sellers to actually learn what they're doing can't be repeated constantly. And again, if this fine was changed to, let's say, 145 million or 1.45 billion dollars, I think Goldman Sachs will actually stop doing entirely what they're doing here. And that's why, like I said, we need a better punishment for when institutions commit things like this. And you can see Goldman Sachs sends hundreds of billions of false order data to regulators, marked short as longs, fast cooking their books, illegally making debt look like assets. Retail investors will go to federal prison for doing that, but Goldman Sachs gets a small fine and told to carry on. And that's the battle we are fighting in this whole journey, in this whole last few years. And it's why we've said it's been a difficult journey, but the very fact that we are still in this, the very fact that the apes are still united is the most important thing. And is why I highlighted and started the video off with this particular post in terms of talking about how no one is selling and that people are buying. Another thing to talk about how shorts are worried, again going on Goldman Sachs, you can see that they observed the largest increase in ETF shorting in more than 10 years. Also, there is plenty of academic research and SEC acknowledgement that ETFs can be used for manipulative shorting and to circumvent short rules. So this is what we talked about. So we just talked about how shorts want to buy shares, but they can't. And that's why they try to suppress the price, because they want to make us sell, but yet we are not selling and we are buying. We talked about how they are also making up false reports to obviously manipulate the price. We talked about how, again, there is nothing to be done. But furthermore, it's about understanding how the reason why they're doing this is just because they can't afford AMC to go up. You can see how hard it is for the short sellers and how easy it is for the apes. For us, it's very simple. Buy and hold, and that's all we have to do. It costs us no money to hold on to the shares, and of course it costs the initial investment of buying the AMC shares. But when we understand is that by spending, as of right now, $3.40 of buying one AMC shares, it's costing the shorts money to rehypothecate a share for us to buy. But not only that, when it goes to $1,000 in the future, we sell it for $1,000 and they have to buy back the share they once created for $1,000. And this is why they're trying to obviously use ETFs to manipulate. We talked about this with XRT, we talked about this with plenty of others as well, and this is just a reason why. And the very fact we are seeing an increase in this is just showing how panicked they are. As always, none of this is ever financial advice, so do take our second with a grain of salt. Make sure to do your own due diligence and research. Another thing is that someone tell Paul Atkins that this is why we need a consolidated audit trail, the CAT system. Billions of errors, marking short as long, manipulating markets. Now, for those of you who know, we obviously talked about how people want to stop the CAT system. And again, the reason for this is because of how much crime it has fully exposed. And so we need to stand together and make sure that the CAT system is still on and going, because it will catch out multiple of these short sellers on the things that they are doing to try and manipulate us out of the squeeze. Another thing to be looking at is Adam Aaron and how excited it is for the future. And oh my, just look at some of the incredible movies still to be released in the next couple of months. Now, when you take a look at the list, you are seeing plenty. where we are going from obviously John Wick all the way to Marvel's The Fantastic Four, and this is just in a span of a month and a half. And now this is what we talked about with understanding just how well AMC, along with the box office of course, is going to be doing, and obviously how AMC will benefit from that and why that's important. Furthermore, seeing a spike in activity around margin call time for GME. Once again, we are seeing the liquidity issues with these short sellers recently, and we're seeing how they're failing to obviously try to suppress us because the fact that they are stretched thin within both AMC and GME and plenty of other stocks as well. And so we are definitely looking at the closing in on the margin calls for both AMC and GME. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching this video. I'll catch you guys next time.